James, health is wealth. So how wealthy are the UCF Knights for week one?
They are rich.
Okay, let's go.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Turn us on, turn us up. We'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend James Duncan, co-show host and UCF sports commentator extraordinaire. Also a really good photographer, in case you guys were wondering. Guys, on today's show, should UCF be playing week 0 to create a second bye week? We're going to talk about that on today's show.
Yeah, I've got some interesting thoughts on that, Mike. And then the next thing that we're going to get into is the international flavor of the Knights. Got a lot of guys from a lot of different places on this team, Mike.
You do. And you know what? Those guys, we need healthy for week 1, which is where we'll start the show. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your likes and subscribes help keep us the #1 UCF podcast out there. And believe me, we are #1. Before the season starts, we need to be a step above whatever #1 is. We need to be freaking heavenly by week 1 here. And I'm counting on you guys to help us out. So share this content on social media, #LockedOnUCF. Starting at the top, how healthy is UCF? Scott Frost was asked this week about the health of his Knights. Let's listen to a quick clip of what he had to say.
Coach, you said when camp opened that your team was really healthy for the most part. Has it stayed that way over the course of practice?
Yeah, we've had some issues rise up. Nothing season-ending. L.A. Jesse's the only one that has had an injury that I think is going to cost him a significant amount of time. And everybody else, we've had some nicks and cuts, but nothing else that I would report.
L.A. Jesse, but for the most part, very, very healthy. I love when the coach talks that way. Look, you have a mission, and that is to get your team through fall camp without any major injuries. That's why you see, if you've never watched the practice, when you see that orange non-contact jersey or red, some use orange, some use red, it means don't touch them. Alonza Barnett wore one. Every practice we watched, he had one on. You were not allowed to lay a finger on UCF's future Heisman winner. Look, at the end of the day, you've got to manage your team. And this sounds routine, but it's more difficult than most people realize. Making sure you rep enough real-time game scenarios so that your team feels confident heading into game 1, but also not getting guys hurt before they even make it to week 1.
Yeah, no, it's so important to get your guys into week 1. One of the quotes that has stuck with me over the offseason was, we got to focus on getting our guys to the race. You always think about getting your guys through the race, but you never think about getting your guys to the race. With, Alonza Barnett, holding him out all of spring camp, people were complaining. People were, coming up with rumors. We were trying to figure out what was going on. We had heard a bunch of different stories from a bunch of different people about what was happening. But at the end of the day, he was okay. And he needed that time over spring practice to get healthy. That's called getting your horses to the race so that they can get through the race. There have been, even last season, think about all the players in the past couple seasons that have had season-ending injuries. Tavion Swint, Day Farmer. And, in the year prior, RJ Harvey has had a season-ending injury. We've had quarterbacks have season-ending injuries. John Walker had a season-ending injury when he was here. You want your best players to be in their best shape come week 1. You want that to be continuously a process of making sure that those guys are 100, sometimes 110% going into week 1, because you don't want to get to week 6, week 7, week 8, and those guys are hobbling to their lockers.
Yeah, definitely. I agree so much. Load management during the season. you practice and you weightlift differently in the off season than you do in season, right? Like you understand that by the time the season gets here, by the time fall camp gets here, if you are not as conditioned as you need to be, if you are not as strong as you need to be, you are spectacularly behind the eight ball. You're behind pace, man.
Yeah.
And it is hard. You're not gonna. Most guys don't get stronger in season. That's off season work. So the off season work needs to be done by August 1st, so that when August 1st gets here, you can concentrate on just preparing, because for the most part, you are who you're going to be for the season, James.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of credit I goes to Zach Duvall of what he's done this offseason with strength and conditioning. Last year, I think there was a lot of injuries, and I think some of them were just spur of the moment things that had happened, and you can't always control those things, but you see the injury numbers go down when strength and conditioning is solid. And this year, I know we've talked about it a little bit, and Coach Frost has talked about it a little bit as well, but he is trying to keep them out on those outside fields for almost every single practice, because he wants them to get used to the heat. He wants them to be able to use the heat to their advantage. So when they have a team like, BYU that comes down here in October, it's going to be hot. It's going to be hot.
It just so happened we talked about that yesterday, about the heat check. And I was telling guys, I was like, look, man, for some of them teams coming from out west where there's a dry heat and they've never experienced humidity. I went through this when I moved from Phoenix back to the South. I was like, what in the actual hell is this? My skin, like condensation was like beating up on me. And I was like, what's happening? I had been gone from the South so long, I forgot what humidity was. And if you don't know, I'm going to repeat this, because if you've never experienced this, it is a little bit strange in how we perceive heat at what temperature. When there is absolutely zero humidity, you really don't feel the heat until after about 92 degrees. 90 feels amazing in Phoenix.
Yeah.
You heard that time. Hey, we outside at 90, right? At 99, we start complaining. We definitely start complaining over 100. And so when we on yesterday's show, I talked about the difference in how the heat indexes feel, and 90. Like if it's 105 here, like that's like 91 there. So
yeah, Mike, I was out in Lubbock a couple weeks ago, and it was June, July, like it was mid of summer, like it's supposed to be hot, and compared to Florida, man, nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, I got off the plane and I was like, it feels like a different season out here, because it's hot, but it doesn't like hit you, and you get off the plane back in Florida, and it's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. Again, when you are in dry heat, your sweat evaporates off you before it gets a chance to bead on your skin. So as a result, you don't feel as hot, without that humidity. And when you do feel the humidity, it's miserable. I'm talking about that. I just got out the shower and I want to jump back in the shower feeling. It's so miserable. And it takes just a few seconds of outside for you to be like, oh, FML, right? And so, look, I want to go back real quick before we move on. I do want to go back to strength and conditioning. Did you see the episode of The Rise where they were like putting air in rafts?
Oh yeah, no, we covered that. We covered that because that's called the program.
Yeah,
and it's like they train with like military. They train with like Marines.
Yeah, that was so cool. And that you teach a lot of things while you're doing something like that, because it does take a certain amount of strength and endurance, but also it's team building. It's learning how to work together. It's a lot of things that UCF is going to need this season. So I like the creativity and how you train multiple things at once, training the physical, but also the mental and the teamwork aspect. love the strength and conditioning program. Hopefully that pays dividends. Let's get to our first break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the international flavor of the UCF Knights. They got some international players that Scott Frost says he's learned a lot from. We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at The Game. Since 1986, The Game has been creating college hats that fans are proud to wear. Whether you're an alumnus, a current student, a season ticket holder, or simply someone who never misses a game, a great college hat is more than just apparel. It's a way to represent your school wherever you go. I put my red hat on the last episode, and someone was like, "Yeah, I don't know about that red hat." Well, you know what, buddy? If you don't like the red hat, I got my white hat here, and it's a UCF classic. So this year, the game is celebrating its 40th anniversary by giving fans a chance to save on some of their most iconic college hats. If you've been thinking about replacing an old hat, this is kind of like an oldie but a goodie. If you've been thinking about replacing an old favorite or adding a new one to your collection, now is the perfect time, guys. With hundreds of officially licensed college hats to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit for game day and every day. Don't miss this chance to celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off your entire order. Don't miss this chance to celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off your entire order. Visit thegamecaps.com and use promo code Locked On at checkout. That's thegamecaps.com, promo code Locked On. Celebrate 40 years of the game with 40% off. But don't wait. This anniversary deal won't last forever. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We are tearing up the podcast charts as the #1 UCF podcast. We want to stay there. We're going to stay there. We like it here. We like it here at the top. James, Scott Frost was asked an interesting question this week about the international players on his team. I want to listen to what he had to say, and I want to discuss what it means to the head coach to have guys of different cultures and backgrounds on the squad.
And then you've talked about the international flavor of this team. Have you learned anything from some of these different cultures and the conversations you've had with some of these guys? Maybe what's been that personal experience that you've had with it?
Yeah, I love to travel, and I've been to some of their homes, so I love talking to them first and foremost. I like some of the accents. I learned how to say hello in whatever native tongue Daniel speaks in Nigeria. I forgot it already, but yeah, it's cool. You know, football is a melting pot, and yeah, not to get preachy, but you know, with social challenges in this country and in the world, and everybody should look to football locker rooms, good ones, because in our locker room, it doesn't really matter where you're from or what you look like. It's teammates, and everybody cares for each other, and you know, people come from different cities, different towns, different socioeconomic backgrounds, and our team, different countries. And it's cool watching all that mesh and vibe and guys having respect and admiration for where somebody else is from and what they've been through.
Scott Frost learning how to say things in the native tongue of some of his players as a kid who grew up a military brat all over the world. We moved a lot. And every time we moved, I had to live somewhere potentially where there were no people from my background. So what is my background? Both my parents are from a small country in South America called Guyana. And there are probably the strongest concentration of Guyanese Americans are like in the New York area. But you don't find a lot of them in the South. I knew one girl in college who had a Guyanese American background. So people, when they hear that, they say, Guyana, is that in Africa? No, it's in South America. Two very different continents. But in trying to explain what it was like, my parents' culture was like, people were always very intrigued. People say, well, Mike, how did your parents meet? My mom's family owned a square mile of land with every fruit tree you could imagine. My dad would go into their yard to climb trees, to eat fruit, and read books. and her dad would come throw rocks at him and say, "Get the hell out of my yard." Like, this is guy had his greatest love story. It's important to learn about the cultures and have respect for people who are not where you're from, who are not like you, right? And to learn how to relate to them. This is not just about football. This is a life skill that football can teach a lot of kids. My dad did his last 3 years in the Army in Hawaii. And one thing that struck me about being in Hawaii is, there are no white people there, but there are no black people either. It's just a lot of Polynesians and Asians. And it was a culture shock to be in a place around so many Polynesians for me at that point in my life. I was only 9 at the time. And when I got back to the States, my dad was stationed at Fort Benning. If you don't know where that's at, that's in Georgia. And probably one of the most, if not the most famous military installation in the world. When we got back to Benning, the amount of kids I went to high school with that had never left the states of Georgia or Alabama was remarkable, right? They didn't know how to relate to people. All they knew is where they've been. And college, what is a way for them to get around a melting pot. Certainly, I think UCF has one of the most diverse undergraduate student bodies in the country, which is great. So, UCF football players are getting that opportunity, James, to be around other cultures and learn from other people. I know this is not a ton about football, but I promise you it really is, because you have to be able to relate to and empathize and be close to teammates who I'm going to say don't take this literally, but speak a different language than you hear. Yeah. Because they grew up in something differently. Scott Frost embracing that actually means a lot to me personally.
Yeah, well, you talk about like speaking a different language up here, but the cool thing is that you're all playing the same game.
Yep.
Like when it comes down to it, you're all speaking the same language with your body. You're all playing the same exact game. That's, I know you had mentioned having like a World Cup game, in your area. Mm-hmm. And I think it was so cool to see. This was the first year that I can really remember. I mean, maybe, 4 years ago that World Cup as well. But like, this is the first year I've really, really paid attention to the World Cup and seeing the joy that, certain people, like there was a guy that had been visiting with, some people from his country here, and he thought everything in America was like so cool. Like he was like, KFC is the best thing. And
they were trying to smuggle ranch back to Europe.
Yes,
crazy.
Yes. So you know what I'm talking about. So like, I just think it's so beautiful how like a game can be played anywhere in the entire world by people that have no idea how to communicate with each other than the game. And, we have a lot of international players on our team. Bertram's the new punter is Aussie. Aymeric Koumba is from France. Bruno Dahl, Germany. Thomas Collins, Sweden. Al-Hassan Idrisu from Ghana. Andrea Parisi from Italy. Arthur Kingdom, who we just got from England. Like we have so many international players on our team. It is a beautiful thing to think about how all of those people are getting the opportunity to come play the game they love, where the game that they love is played most often. Yeah. Like it's actually a beautiful thing. And I love Scott's answer. And I think some people that only give a crap about football and they want to say, oh, well, all I watch this podcast for is football. All I watch these press conferences for are football. Man, there's a lot of things that are bigger than football. But football is going to be, the messenger of those things. And I think that's why this was such a great answer from Scott.
Yeah. Sports brings people together, right? Like almost unlike anything else in the world where, it's our team, right? But it's a game and it's a language that we all speak. So when the game is on and we're focused on that, right? Like, it's kind of like when a player gets hurt, right? And everyone in the stadium should be of the same mind at that point.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you go to Arizona State. I'm going to tell that story in a second. They, it is, to me, it means something, and it means something for the coach to embrace that, because the players will follow their lead. Before we move on, I do have to tell this story. So I had a friend while I was living in Phoenix. She came to town. She was a Michigan State grad. She said, Mike, you want to go to the Michigan State ASU game? And I'm like, sure. So she got us tickets to the game. And I had been living in Phoenix for like, I don't know, 5 years at this point. Never been to no desire to go to an Arizona State game. When I tell you it's one of the most overrated experiences ever. They are all drinking down on Mill Ave 20 minutes before the game. They're not in there. They have this chant where every time they get a first down, they go 1, 2, 3, first down. Right, like you can't say the word on air. But I'm like, yeah, I got this 19-year-old screaming the B word in my ear every 3 minutes. Everybody's drunk. It was awful. So during the game, an Michigan State player gets hurt. And the drill. Like when a dude hasn't been moving for 2 minutes, we're quiet until we know he's okay. And then we clap him off the field and resume our chants. While this kid is laying on the field, they're all in all their weird Arizona State chants. And I couldn't help myself. I was so happy that she wasn't an Arizona State fan, because I would have embarrassed her. But I just couldn't. I said my inner monologue became my outer monologue. And I was like, this is classless AF. What are we doing? And he's like, we're not. The guy turned around and wanted to fight me. He was like, we're not cheering him being hurt. And I was like, yes, Sherlock, but let me fill you in on something, Professor. Normally, you're quiet until we know he's okay, and then we clap him off the field. That's the classic thing to do, right? And so, the difference in cultures is, and I thought that was a language everybody in football spoke. When players down on the field, it doesn't matter what team he's on. You just quiet until we know he's okay.
Yeah,
that kid didn't move for like 2 minutes. I was so mad in that moment. I think it was like 2016. I was very upset, and it didn't feel like we were all one at that point. And I think that's what made me the most upset. So, having a coach who embraces the cultures of his players, because a lot of them that come from here, they don't have, if you've never moved to some place where you don't know anybody, it can be the loneliest feeling. And it forced me as a kid. I had to learn how to make friends with people every few years and rebuild my friend group. And it was exhausting. But when I became an adult, it was a useful skill, because I would take a job no matter where my company needed me. And I moved up faster than anybody because I was willing to do that. Whereas most people are so scared of change, they'll pass on a promotion to just stay where they're at. And, for him to embrace their cultures and makes them feel more at home here, so that when you're asking them to do things, they're more comfortable and they're more likely to accomplish every goal they set out, because they don't feel alone, and they don't, and they feel like there's somebody there that they can depend on, and somebody who cares. All that stuff matters, man. I don't care how much you don't think it matters. I'm telling you, it matters. Let's get to our last break, and when we come back, Scott Frost was asked another interesting question about possibly moving week 1 to week 0 to gain an extra bye week. Is this game right here, James? We'll talk about that next, right here on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF, James, is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Do you like baseball? I love baseball.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
I like baseball.
Nice baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Baseball fans, if you think you know who's hitting a homer today, FanDuel is giving you a free chance to call your shot with daily dingers. It's easy to play. Just make sure you're free. Just make your free pick for who you think will hit a home run in their game. If you're right, you'll receive a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make a free pick every day throughout the MLB season. Daily Dingers is another fun way to stay engaged with everyday's games, whether you're following your favorite team or keeping an eye on matchups across the league. Every game has someone capable of going deep, baby, and now you get the chance to make your prediction before the first pitch. If you're ready to make your play today, join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball and swing for the fences on FanDuel, the official partner of the MLB. Playing week 0 to gain back the extra bye week. So the last couple of years, we've had 2 bye weeks. That's going away this year. And I think all the Power 4 conferences are now playing 9 conference games. But I know a lot of coaches loved the 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
Scott Frost says, like, hey, should we be playing week 0? I think it's game, especially if you're playing Bethune-Cookman, to play on a Thursday night. So when the game is over, you have 2 extra days to recover for your week 2 game. So I think that's even smart, not playing week 1 Saturday. But let's listen to what Scott had to say in response to this question about playing week 0.
Just out of curiosity, beginning next season, schools can move up the schedule instead of being Labor Day week, and you can play on week 0. I know that's something maybe Terry is talking to teams about. Is that something as a coach, as you look at it, mapping out future schedules, would you like to start maybe the week before and then maybe have an extra bye week in there?
Yeah, I think I would. 2 bye weeks makes a big difference. When you talk about getting guys healthy and keeping them fresh through the season, I particularly playoff teams, it gets to be a long year. And, we're still talking about 18, 19-year-old kids in some cases, and it's a lot more than they experience in high school. So I think if you ask most coaches, they would like the 2 bye schedule like we had last year, just for health and continuity of the team and keeping the team fresh. And if we have to start a little early to get that done, then I'm in favor of it.
I like it. I do. I think it's a no-brainer. Now, you will not always be able to do that depending on who the matchup is. Let's say UCF was taking on another Power 4 team and it ended up being one of those highlight matchups in week 1. You're not always going to be able to move that to week 0 because the networks will have something to say about when the game is actually played. But when you're playing Bethune-Cookman, it doesn't matter. Week 0, that game, man. What do you think about this idea of playing week 0 to create a little bit of a competitive advantage?
Yeah, UCF plays pretty much every season opener in the past couple of years that I've been to on a Thursday. And I think that is nice because it generally gives you a little bit of extra time to prep for your week 2. But I think it's funny because anytime that Scott Frost in the past has been asked a question that is not directly football related, unless it's like something like mildly interesting or personal about one of his players, he always is like, man, I let the guys that handle those decisions handle those decisions. Like, I don't worry about that as a coach. But then he had an answer really quick for this. And that was that he would love to be able to play week 0 because that extra bye week helps to keep his guys healthy. I think if you could get a week 0 game, I would have a week 0 game. He told us, what was it, a month ago, that he was like, if we had to play right now, I think we'd be fine.
Yeah. Scott Frost knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He knows what his team needs. At the end of the day, UCF just has to get it done. Any little bit of advantage that you can get, take it. It's a long season. And he mentioned the age of the players, and you have to create opportunities for your team. That's your job as the head coach. If this is an opportunity that could be created, I'm okay with him taking it. Especially if you're playing a nobody in week 1. Who cares? Move it to week 0. Get it out of the way. I'm sure that the other team might actually appreciate having the extra time to recover as well, too, because if it's an overmatched opponent, they are likely to get really beat up in that game, and they might need an extra week to recover. So I think it's a win-win for both teams involved. James, great conversation. I want to thank you for joining me on today's show. We're going to get out of here, guys. Hit the comment section after the video. Let us know what you think. Do you want to see UCF play week 0? How much do you love the international flavor to the Knights? And drop us a comment just saying you're A-okay with us being healthy going into week 1. No injuries. We want to see that. Always, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Help keep us the #1 source of UCF football content out there. We'll see you guys later today right here on Locked On UCF.